There's been a lot of turmoil at Google lately. It's because of the whole deal with the generative AI model Gemini. It's been producing racially biased images, and now people are calling for Sundar Pichai to step down as a CEO. There's even talk of him becoming the first CEO to lose his job due to AI. What happened to the man who was once seen as a game-changer in Silicon Valley leadership? Recently, a poll was posted on the job site Blind, asking if Sundar Pichai is Google's Steve Ballmer. Surprisingly, 76% of respondents agreed with the statement. Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft, is infamous for failing to recognize the shift from PCs to mobile, which ultimately cost Microsoft its market leadership position. The statement here seems to imply that Google might be facing a similar situation, especially with the rise of OpenAI and Microsoft. Many have even argued that Sundar Pichai should step down as Google's CEO. Ben Thompson, a well-known tech analyst, wrote in his newsletter Stratechery that Google, quite clearly, needs a similar transformation. First and foremost, excising the company of employees attracted to Google's power and its potential to help them execute their political program, and return decision-making to those who actually want to make a good product. That, by extension, must mean removing those who let the former run amok, up to and including CEO Sundar Pichai. Mark Shmulik, an internet analyst at Bernstein, also said that the most recent saga only further raises increasingly louder questions around whether this is the right management team to guide Google into this next era. So the saga, Shmulik mentioned, is the new image generation feature that Google added to its generative AI model, Gemini, back in February. But it was racially biased, depicting historical figures like the Founding Fathers and Einstein as people of color and turning German Nazis as Asians. Google had to shut down the service after just 20 days. Sundar Pichai had to step up and admit. He said, "I know that some of its responses have offended our users and shown bias. To be clear, that's completely unacceptable and we got it wrong." But it's not just this incident that raised doubts about Pichai's leadership. There have been growing concerns that Google has lost its innovation engine. The biggest problem is the bureaucracy that has grown inside Google. This is exactly why Pichai is getting compared to Steve Ballmer. Google has always had a reputation for being the furthest thing from bureaucratic. It was known for its culture of equal communication and free flow of creative ideas. Even back in 2004, during their initial public offering, Google's co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin wrote in their first shareholder letter that, "Google is not a conventional company. We do not intend to become one." Then in 2015, Google made a pretty significant move. They created Alphabet, shifting to a holding company setup. The idea behind all that was basically to give Google the freedom to try out different things without getting too comfy or complacent. So Google separated its cash cow, search and advertising businesses from other bet segment and placed non-core subsidiaries under it, including self-driving tech company Waymo and life sciences business Verily. This also includes X, a research organization that succeeded the Moonshot project, which challenges science fiction ideas. These organizations symbolize Google's innovation, taking on ambitious projects to change the world, even if they meant losing money. And then there's the 20% rule. It's about letting employees to spend 20% of their work time on their own creative ideas. This has led to the creation of hit services like Gmail and AdSense, and after the shift to Alphabet, they kept the spirit alive with Area 120, their incubator program. But lately, things seem to be changing. These organizations that were once the heart of Google's culture started to lose their spark. Area 120 had half of its projects canceled in September 2022, followed by massive layoffs in January 2023. And then in last January, X Labs was also under pressure. Originally, X's projects were meant to be spun off as subsidiaries through internal investment once they reached a certain level of functionality, similar to Waymo and Verily. But now, if they can't attract outside investors, it won't be able to turn it into a subsidiary. Outside of search and advertising, the businesses that make up the other bets have lost $37.6 billion since 2015. They say that there is no subsidiary that we can expect to be profitable in the future. The Information, a U.S. business publication, said that It also signals that Alphabet may eventually abandon the principle of its founding, at least when it comes to new moonshots. Part of the trouble with other bets stemmed from flawed belief that Alphabet, one of the world's most profitable corporations, could recreate the do-or-die mentality of startups. Of course, it's true that a giant company can't act like a startup forever, but even when compared to other tech giants, it seems like Google has become much more bureaucratic. Back in 2013, Israeli navigation software Waze was acquired by Google. Former CEO Noam Barden, who left for Google at the time, wrote a lengthy post on his departure from Google in February 2021. He argued that Google as a conglomerate is not the place to bring innovative products and services to customers. Employees who had grown accustomed to the work-life balance and perks were looking for more money rather than passion and a sense of mission. They also preferred to work on tasks that would help their promotion rather than build game-changing products, and they spent more time defending Google's internal policies rather than building products. Bardeen wrote, "All these issues drove me crazy. These aspects of corporate life slowly wore me down. At the end of every day, I always ask myself, what did I do for our users today? When I found myself avoiding this question because I was embarrassed by the answer, I knew my time was up." In February 2023, AppSheet founder Prudence left Google, and his post went viral. AppSheet, a no-code app development platform, was acquired by Google in 2020. He criticized Google's bureaucratic culture, a step above Noam Barden. Google has more than 175,000 capable and well-compensated employees who get very little done quarter over quarter, year over year. Like mice, they are trapped in a maze of approvals, launch processes, legal reviews, performance reviews, and etc. In other words, employees are there to report to someone rather than to serve customers or users. Praveen Seshadri cited talent management as the biggest problem, along with a collective delusion that Google's way is the best, which leads to complacent employees. According to a report from The Information, startups don't even favor people from Google anymore. It used to be that people from Google would have been the number one talent that startups wanted to hire, but now they're interested in people from more innovative companies like Snowflake and Stripe. If you've only worked at Google, you're like a big company employee who's not used to taking on new challenges in a tough environment. People say that Google has changed because of its success in the search and advertising businesses. Seshadri said, "The way I see it, Google has 4 core cultural problems. They are all the natural consequences of having a money-printing machine called ads that has kept growing relentlessly every year, hiding all other sins." Y Combinator co-founder Paul Graham also pointed out on his Twitter, "Why are they so bureaucratic? Because the only limit on how bloated and ineffective they can be is the cash cow that is search advertising, and that may be the biggest cash cow in history." Seshadri's remarks caused quite a stir inside Google. This came at a time when OpenAI, founded as a competitor to DeepMind, was rapidly outpacing Google. People in the Google AI community have been saying for years that Google's search engines should have a chatbot feature. But the company has been hesitant to unveil the product. Prior to the launch of OpenAI's image generation model, DALL-E 2, Google already had a model with similar capabilities, but hadn't released it. Even in December 2022, when ChatGPT was launched, some Google employees pushed for the product to be introduced. However, executives argued that if the chatbot failed to provide reliable responses and caused issues, it will be more costly. Cautious stance led Google to lose its lead to OpenAI, and they rushed to release Bard and Gemini to catch up. Many researchers became frustrated and left Google for OpenAI. Even the founders of Character AI are also former Google employees who couldn't stand the company's cautiousness and left. Mina, the chatbot they created in 2020, now serves as the foundation for Google's large-scale language model, LaMDA. The founders had wanted to release Mina to the public sooner, but the company wouldn't let them due to safety concerns. They eventually left Google in 2021 to start their own company. As of September last year, Character AI was valued at $5 billion. Many point out Sundar Pichai's leadership for fostering a culture of caution, where announcements are avoided unless the product is perfect. In June 2021, The New York Times quoted former and current Google executives as saying that many of Google's problems stem from the leadership style of Sundar Pichai, the company's affable, low-key chief executive. In my opinion, the problem is that Pichai's desire to avoid offending anyone and making enemies causes him to overthink and delay decisions on major issues. Sundar Pichai is a nice guy, but the problem is, he's not decisive. The New York Times wrote, in 2018, more than a dozen vice presidents at Google tried to warn Mr. Pichai in an email that the company was experiencing significant growing pains. The executives wrote that Google took too long with big decisions, making it hard to get anything done. But nothing changed, and several of them left the company. There was a lot of frustration, especially around the Shopify acquisition. Google executives have long considered acquiring Shopify as a weapon against Amazon. But after much deliberation, Pichai rejected the idea, saying Shopify was too expensive. Since then, Shopify's stock price has increased tenfold. HR decisions were also overly cautious too. Pichai didn't fill the general counsel position, which became vacant in 2018 until a year later. It wasn't even a fresh face. It was someone from Google's own legal team who had been sitting at the top of the shortlist for a year already. Why employees are concerned about Pichai's leadership is well explained in the following statement by an employee who left Google last year. According to Forbes, the employee said that, "I hesitate to put blame or responsibility on Sundar because he doesn't project a strong voice of leadership one way or another. I'm not even sure I could say what his particular vision for the company is, apart from holding the market share we already have." Of course, Sundar Pichai's leadership style itself is not exactly what you'd call a visionary CEO. He's more of an executive type, keeping things steady and stable at the company, kind of like Tim Cook over at Apple after Steve Jobs. Back in September 2015, when Pichai stepped into the CEO role, Google's market capitalization was $435 billion. Today, Alphabet's market cap has soared to $1.7 trillion. Judging by the stock price, Pichai's leadership has been a success. But the problem is that people are expecting more than just good management from Google. Can Pichai really shake things up and bring in a fresh vision and culture to this somewhat sluggish organization? Or maybe we need a new guy to be Google's Satya Nadella. That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Thanks.